Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video I want to talk to you a little bit about the types of dismissive avoidant deactivating strategies. So this question was actually based off of a member from inside of our school, and she asked about in one of the webinars, like, what are the different types of deactivating strategies and how do they impact the dynamic and all these different things. And so it was such an excellent question. I wanted to make like a whole video series on it. And so what I'm going to basically do is break down some of the types of sponsoring emotions and wounds that create deactivating strategies. And we're basically going to call these the types of deactivating strategies that exist. So these are the fear-based deactivating strategies, the sadness-based, the self-protection, the anger, resentment, and or spite, the self-avoidance or feeling avoidance deactivating strategies. And these are the most common for the dismissive avoidance specifically. So what we're going to do in this video is talk a little bit about these different kinds and basically where they come from, what they're related to, how long they last. And then if you want a follow-up video with this, let me know in the comments below. In terms of like how to overcome these deactivating strategies if you're the dismissive avoidant, or how to create patterns in a relationship that are likely to move beyond these things really quickly if you're on sort of the receiving end of the deactivating itself. And keep in mind, sometimes I make some videos at the same time. So by the time I see the comments to the time I release a video on this, it might be a few days. However, I will make sure to follow up if this is something you guys want to see. So let's talk about this in a little bit of detail. And before I dive in, we still have our sale going to support our community. The coupon code is with you for 25% off for 3, 6, 12-month membership bundles. I'll put a link in the description box below. And we also have our lifetime membership. It's like 50% off or something crazy because we just launched it. And so it's like our launch price. And it ends October 10th. That'll be in the description box below as well. So let's talk about it. When we have the different types of deactivating strategies, one of the first biggest ones that we'll see for dismissive avoidance specifically is the fear-based deactivating strategy. And this occurs in a way that sometimes you won't recognize at the surface level. Like, it might look like the person's just shutting down or pulling away or is losing interest or something like this, but a lot of what can happen is closeness, openness, vulnerability tends to trigger all of the subconsciously stored associations to what that has been made to feel like for that person in the first place. So you have to remember, the brain's like an association making machine. So if you have, for example, lots of painful experiences around vulnerability in your upbringing or your childhood, if you go into your adult life and those programmed subconscious associations haven't changed, well, what are you going to experience? When vulnerability happens, you're going to feel negative emotions that are tied in as associations to that thing itself, being vulnerability in this case. So this is what happens a lot of the time in dismissive avoidant relationships. And what I always say is, like, you sort of get the feelings minus the fears. And so deactivating strategies can happen when we associate something that we're experiencing as being not good. And now we have these negative feelings towards that thing, even though the thing might be going really well. Then we have like the thing going well, but it's in competition with the competing subconscious associations that have been catalyzed to be brought to the surface. So let's pretend I'm a dismissive avoidant and I'm dating somebody. And let's say we're in a relationship, or we're starting to be in a relationship, and I'm like really interested, a 9 out of 10, but then we become more vulnerable. We start talking about commitment. We start opening up and talking about feelings and sharing ourselves and sharing our inner realities. If I have a lot of negative associations stored around that, even if that's a nice thing to do, and even if it goes pretty well when we're together, now all these negative feelings are being elicited. And my mind can't tell the difference between, like, you know, what my feelings are versus my fears are. It just feels some positive emotions towards a person and a lot of negative emotions towards that person too. And it becomes confusing. And the fearful avoidant version of that, a really good one, is around vulnerability related to trust, right? Like, sometimes there's these sort of competing associations, and it might just feel like you need to push the person away and you don't really know why, because things seem pretty good. And this can be a really common experience for a lot of dismissive avoidance. So what does this look like? Well, the fear-based deactivating strategies can be because of vulnerability, closeness, commitment, associating that you're weak if you open up, and fearing being weak in front of somebody. It can touch to a certain degree around like something's wrong with me, core wound. And this can be something that's on and off for a dismissive avoidant, until it becomes really strong. So sometimes you'll see like the deactivating strategies where they'll pull away. And the most common version of this is like, we'll often see somebody getting really close, having like a really big date where there's lots of emotional intimacy on that date, a lot of connection. One party goes home and goes, oh my goodness, this was an amazing, amazing date. And like, I can't wait to talk to this person tomorrow. And then it felt like it went so well from both ends. And then suddenly it feels like the other person like fell off the face of the earth. And for 3 or 4 days, you don't even hear from them. And then suddenly they sort of return and they've taken space in between. And a lot of the time, this is because there was a fear-based subconscious association or set of associations triggered. And then all of a sudden the person woke up the next day and they were like, the date went well, but I just feel something inside of me that needs to pull away. So this is the example of the fear-based deactivating strategy for the dismissive avoidant. Then we have the sadness-based deactivating strategy. And this often takes place when somebody is going through a certain set of challenges intrinsically. And this can just be because they are sad, they're under stress or pressure in their own lives and relationships. And so they just kind of shut down and they feel this heaviness. And usually when dismissive avoidants feel like their emotional bandwidth has shrunk because maybe it's being spent on pain, or they're feeling heavy, or they're sort of in a bit of a depressive episode, or they're just not feeling good overall, they're more stressed, they're under more pressure, you have to remember like the emotional bandwidth of a DA is already a lot smaller than usual because they're actively trying to repress a lot of their feelings. And so then it shrinks even more, and then they become that much more emotionally unavailable. And so this can be sort of a long-term deactivating strategy when somebody's going through a season of life that's challenging or painful, they shut down for that entire season of life. Like you might see a DA shut down for like 3-4 months, be almost permanently shut down to a certain degree for that period of time. It's not like a deactivating strategy where it lasts for just a little bit of time. It's kind of an ongoing deactivated state. And in this space, you'll often see a lot of withdrawing. A lot of dismissive avoidants will feel like something's wrong with me as well, and they feel ashamed for feeling like that. And so then when you want more closeness, or you want to see them, or you want to cheer them up or spend time together, usually they can't accept that because they feel shame and they don't want you to see them in their shame. And so that can be a really painful thing. And if you're a dismissive avoidant watching this, I'm sure you know what that means. And again, I think it would be so beneficial to do like this video would be like 2 hours long if I did strategies for all of it, but I can do a full video about going back through the deactivating strategies and then some strategies to overcome them if you are this person experiencing it as the dismissive avoidant in this case, or even like as the partner. We can do both sides. Let me know if that's something you want to see. Self-protection, number 3, deactivating strategy. This is usually when somebody feels hurt by something that happened in a relationship dynamic. So this can be hurt by criticism, hurt by them feeling vulnerable and feeling like it wasn't reciprocated, or just any kind of misunderstanding that occurs in a relationship. And you'll see when the dismissive avoidant is hurt and they go into self-protection deactivating strategy, there's sometimes like a 3 to 4 day recovery here as well. But this can be sped up dramatically if they feel like the coast is clear and if that hurt is undone. So for example, if somebody makes a criticism and maybe it was like an overreaction, and then you own your part and share like where it was coming from, and maybe that you were just feeling afraid, and then it doesn't mean like mutually exclusive to expressing a need. Like maybe you were hurt because a need was unmet, but you can say, you know what, I didn't communicate that well. You know, I really needed this and I would really like to focus on this going forward, but like, I don't think that you're a bad person. Maybe that's what you said, or like whatever it might be. That's just an example. I think you're a really good person and here's how. And so sometimes if the coast is clear, that self-protection deactivating strategy can actually shift gears and become a little more neutralized a lot more quickly. And so I sort of talked about a strategy there, but yeah. So number 4, anger and resentment deactivating strategies. And I'm going to kind of lump like spite in here too. Anger, resentment is usually a buildup of lack of communication on the dismissive avoidance part, usually because of a subconscious belief that exists within this person that it doesn't matter if they communicate their needs because they can't get their needs met through others. And so what we'll see is this sort of buildup of not communicating because they believe there's no point or why bother. And then over time, they start feeling resentful and they start feeling an imbalance in the relationship because maybe they're not communicating what they actually need. And so even though they might be with a really giving or generous partner, a good part of their needs are still unmet because the partner's not a mind reader, because people are not mind readers. even as good as they might be at noticing human behavior and adapting to things, can't know everything at the end of the day. And so over time, that buildup of resentment can take place. And then this can result in anger or resentment deactivating strategies, and that can even come out as like passive aggression in its like spitefulness version, which spite in and of itself is a subconscious strategy to push somebody away. But there's this competing association there where it can also be to have some form of emotional closeness, because it's like, if I can make you feel how I feel, then you know how I feel and you must understand me. So it's this really unique type of strategy where it has like largely deactivating parts, but can also have an activating component, again, depending on the individual's sponsoring intention for what they're using it for. Okay, for some people, just to get their power back, right? So you have to tune in and check in with that, but I'm kind of sidetracking. So anger, resentment, usually a buildup of unmet needs. And then usually there's a need to pull away. But if that need is addressed, it becomes a short-term deactivating strategy. If it's not, and that continues to happen, then we'll often see that the dismissive avoidant goes into like a long-term deactivating strategy, and sometimes can break off or push away or decide to end a relationship from that space. And then lastly, we have our self-avoidance or feeling avoidance deactivating strategy. Now this is often something that takes place when somebody's not wanting to feel their feelings, or they're sort of disconnecting more and more from themselves. And again, this can be because there's like slightly challenging or pressuring circumstances happening in their lives. Maybe they got a new job, or maybe they are changing jobs, or they're afraid about something in their life. They have family challenges going on, whatever it might be, and they're trying to avoid their own feelings. And so they sort of shut down and numb out and become a little more cold than usual. And obviously that impacts right into a romantic relationship. And what's really happening is the dismissive avoidant is trying to keep themselves safe, but they sort of create this like splitting off from an intrinsic part of themselves. And then they also start, as a byproduct of that, deactivating a little bit from others, keeping their walls up from others because they feel emotionally overloaded. They feel like their bandwidth is shrunk. And now they need this space and distance between. And so this self-avoidance or feeling avoidance becomes an avoidance strategy, aka deactivating strategy, that does take place in the interpersonal dynamics of romantic relationships as well, or even friendships and family dynamics. Now, this can also be something that happens sort of on a continuum. So it can be a little bit and the person can be not fully closed, or it can be a lot and the person can become really closed off. And if it's just a stressful singular event, so a really bad day at work, losing a job, whatever it might be, then we'll often see the dismissive avoidant deactivate. And then again, it can be sort of like a 3 or 4 day thing if it's a singular event. If it's an ongoing set of circumstances, that self-avoidance can be more of a long-term deactivating strategy as well. So I hope this makes sense. I'm sure there will be lots of questions, please, because I'll probably go back through and look at the comments or have a team member like organize them for me. So what we'll see is I can put this into like a video to answer some follow-up questions you have about this. I feel like it's such a big, amazing topic. I might even do like a course about this at some point. So thank you so much to our member who asked this question. You probably know who you are, and I hope you watch this. And it was just such a great set of insights that this person had who's been doing a lot of work. So anyways, so let's talk about this. Let me know any follow-up questions that you have, what you want to see in the follow-up videos, if it's something you do want to see. And thank you so much for watching and for being a part of our community. And please like, share, and subscribe if you're getting a lot of value out of this channel. And I will see you in the next video.